Welcome to another episode of the Myokinetix podcast. Today we have our stud athlete, Brian Ugwu from Miami, Ohio. So Brian was with us last year, rehabbing his ACL, and he has such an incredible success on the field. And I was like, you know what, man, you got to come in here, talk about your journey, so that way people can really kind of model their journey after you. So Brian, thank you so much, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course. Fresh. Did you just hop off the jet from the Bahamas after that bowl?
Yeah. So after the Bahamas trip, I kind of stayed for like a couple of days just to settle some business, like get my schedule ready for next semester as well. So I stayed for like 2 days and then I came back home.
Nice, man. You earned it. So let's talk about it. Let's tell the listener like your background, where you grew up, how you get into football, and pretty much your path to how you got into Miami right now.
Yeah. Well, basically, I grew up in a Nigerian household. So growing up, soccer was the big sport in our family. So that's what I played first. I enjoyed it. I still love watching soccer. But I remember it was the Super Bowl where the Colts played the Bears. I forgot which one that was, but that was like the first football game I remember watching. And I fell in love with the sport. But obviously, my parents didn't like the sport, how violent and all the injuries that come with it. So it was kind of hard to convince them to let me play. But one year, in 2010, my dad signed me up for Pop Warner. Played 1 year at Pop Warner, and then after that, my dad didn't want me to play anymore. So it sucked. So I had to go back playing soccer after that year. But going into high school, I finally had the chance to just play had my opportunity just to pick to play. I didn't have to have my dad sign me up. I could just go try out and stuff like that. So freshman year of high school, I tried out for my town, Hillside. Freshman year wasn't the best, but sophomore year, that's when everything took off. I started playing varsity football, got my first college interest as a sophomore and all that stuff, and got my first offers as a junior.
Wow.
I had a lot of offers, about 20 offers, but at the time, I just chose to stay home and play for Rutgers. I had a great relationship with Coach Ash, who was the coach at the time. And, so I decided to go play for Rutgers. First 2 years, I didn't really play that much. And then I tore my ACL a week before the first game.
Man, yeah.
It was in camp, a scrimmage in camp. It sucked. I remember I was going to make a tackle, and my studs got caught in the turf. That's why I kind of don't like playing on turf anymore, but that's a different story. But yeah, my studs got stuck in the turf, and I remember when I felt the pain, I knew it was something I never really felt before. So I remember going to the ground and just like immediately feeling tears coming out of my eyes, not because it hurt, it's because of disappointment, because all this work I put in that off season, especially, like I put in so much work, gained so much muscles, so much strength, and my numbers and lifting went up so much. And then just improving in spring ball that year, in summer camp, doing all that. And then a week before the first game, I'm in a spot that I'm going to be able to play a lot this year for the first time. And a week before just tearing my ACL, it sucked. So I just remember when that moment happened, tears just started coming out of my eyes just from disappointment. I saw my head coach, trainers, doctors running out to me. So as soon as I seen that, I'm like, oh yeah, this is a big injury. Yeah. So I remember them doing tests on my knee, and I'm looking at them to see what the reactions is, and I see head shakes. So I'm like, yeah, this is what it is. And I was the type of guy, like, I never really had an injury this severe before. I know it's a common injury in the sport, but I just never had it. And I used to see, like, growing up, my favorite athlete was Derrick Rose, and I loved him a lot. And obviously everyone knows about him and his injury.
3.
Yeah, exactly. So I just remember, like, when I didn't know I knew at the moment that was not a little injury. Like, I know I was going to be out for a while, but I was still optimistic. Like, hopefully it's not a torn ACL. Hopefully it's not anything big. But then the next day I got the MRI and I saw that it was a torn ACL. So at that moment, like, the day it happened, I cried, but the next morning, and when I found out the results, I knew, like, I had to have a strong mindset, because everyone was telling me this is a long process and recovery. So I just made sure that my mindset was strong as soon as, I had that day to, moan and stuff like that. But I knew, like, the next morning I had to, stay strong and get ready for what's about to come. So, yeah.
Wow. I mean, let's backtrack a little bit. We're definitely going to touch the ACL subject, but I want to see obviously I didn't know that you grew up in a Nigerian household, and
Yeah.
I mean, in Thailand it's the same thing. It's either boxing or soccer.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. And how do you make that transition from going to, because soccer's a fall sport and same as football. How do you convince your parents? And like obviously I know like just because you got to high school, and I know how that household can be, I think it's very similar where, you know, you're still in under your parents' roof. Like you still have to do what they say. So how do you convince them? Because I know there's so many kids that out there that wants to play football, but parents wouldn't want them to.
So for me, it was kind of like I said, I fell in love with the sport when I watched that Super Bowl. But I used to always talk to my dad about it. I used to always bring it up, and sometimes when I brought it up, it was kind of like in a joking matter because I always knew like my dad and my mom, especially my mom. My mom hates the sport to this day, but I just knew that they wouldn't like me playing that sport. But like I said, 2010, I was young, so my dad just said, "Let me give him a try." You know, it's young kids, so less likely to get hurt. That's what they, you know, that was their thought process. So they signed me up one year, and honestly, I don't know why. I think because he just saw how much I wanted to play it, and he saw how passionate I was. You know, all parents, I feel like when they see that their kid is passionate in something, they're gonna want to help them, you know, do it or achieve that. So my dad gave me that opportunity to play that one year in 2010, and I played that year. I had fun. I was chubby, so I played like O-line, D-line. But after that year, my dad didn't want me to play anymore, and I think it's because like I wasn't playing with my age mates because, like I said, I was a bigger guy when I was younger. So my dad asked him, like, my dad was okay with it because I was young and I was playing with young guys. But when he saw that next year I would probably be playing with older guys because of my weight, he said, no, I didn't let me play. So I had to wait till high school to play football again. And that was because in high school I had the decision. But the funny story is I told my dad I was going to soccer tryouts in high school my freshman year, but I was actually went to football tryouts, and he found out one day when I told him I had a soccer game.
Yeah.
So it was an away football game, but I told him it was a soccer game. So he dropped me off at the high school to get ready to go on the bus and go to the game, and he saw all the football pads on the floor getting loaded onto the bus and stuff like that. And he was like, "Oh, I thought you were going to a soccer game," and stuff like that. And I'm like, Dad, I'm playing football. Like I was getting tired. You know me, like I get tired of like hiding stuff from my dad, and I don't lie to my parents and stuff like that. So I had to tell him, like, Dad, I'm playing football, you know. And I couldn't remember how he felt, but I know like he didn't stop me. So so that was the day I told him, and since then it's been history. Yeah,
I'm sure your mom is still in your ears all the time.
She hates it.
Yeah. I mean, and all right, let's fast forward, man. I mean, you say what's changed between your freshman year and your sophomore year? Do you get things just start clicking for you?
College?
No, high school.
High school.
That's when you start coming together.
So freshman year, growing up, like I loved football, but my favorite position was quarterback, and I always wanted to be a quarterback. I grew up loving Aaron Rodgers. I still think he's the greatest quarterback of all time. That's just my opinion. When we talk about raw talent and ability and what he could do, like he could do everything, honestly. Well, when he was in his prime, you know, he's getting older and stuff. But I love watching Aaron Rodgers. I also liked watching the Giants as well, Eli Manning. So I always wanted to be a quarterback. So my freshman year of high school, I tried out as the quarterback. Wasn't the best. You know, I did what I had to do, but our freshman team wasn't that good. And let's just say I was a decent quarterback, but if you're a decent quarterback on a not-so-good team, things are not going to go the best. So, my freshman year of football wasn't the best feeling. I didn't feel as good and as confident as I usually feel. Also, playing at a school that, like, not really, at the time, wasn't really big for football. Like, when I was playing there at Hillside High School, I think they made the playoffs. The last time they made the playoffs was, like, 2008.
Wow.
They haven't won a state championship in 32 years. So, now, obviously, not playing well and you're not playing on a so-good team, you kind of, like, and mind you, I didn't go to that high school. That was just my time high school. I went to a vocational high school in Scotch Plains, but when you're in that situation, you kind of think like maybe like football is not going to be, you know, in my future. Like maybe I just focus on my studies, and that's what I was kind of doing. Like when I went to the vocational school, I'm like, let me go to a better school. I can get a good education just in case. Like I know I love football. I don't want to play football in the future, but just in case it doesn't work out, I have something to lean on. So that freshman year wasn't the best, and then sophomore year, I got a new head coach who came from Shabazz High School. He was the OC at Shabazz High School. And he came there, and I was still trying to play quarterback, but he looked at my size. And at this time, I'm not fat anymore, but I'm like have muscle on me. I'm tall. I'm tall, one of the taller ones on the team. He looks at me. He's like, you could be a great linebacker for us. And I'm like, I still want to play quarterback. That's where I grew up wanting to play. But he convinced me to play switch to linebacker, and I started as a sophomore on the varsity team under him. His first game, his first time as a head coach, he started me. He believed in me to start me with a bunch of other juniors and seniors, and I'm a sophomore on the field playing. And I remember the first time playing, I was scared. I didn't know what to do, and I haven't played linebacker ever. But I just credit myself because I'm always prepared and ready for the moment. So I went out there, I did my thing, started balling out the whole season. I was balling out, and I got my first college interest from Rutgers my sophomore year, and then junior year I went on to play linebacker again, but I was also playing running back as well, and I dominated running back, went viral for hurdling people and jumping over people, which was a great feeling.
Yeah.
So yeah, and that's when I got my first offer. My first offer was to Pittsburgh, University of Pittsburgh. It was a great feeling getting that first offer as well, because it's something that I was dreaming about since I was a kid. And like I said, my school wasn't known for football for real, and to be able to be the first person in my whole town at this school to get a Division I offer for football and just show everyone else in the town and around me that, it's possible to do it here. It was an amazing feeling. And just to show my parents that this is what football can do for me and our family, the opportunity to go to college for free, it was an amazing feeling. So, yeah, and we also won our first state championship in 32 years my junior year, and we won it again my senior year.
Wow, man. I mean, there's so many things to unpack there, and I think what I like to take it back is that I grew up in an immigrant's household is different, right?
Yeah.
Priority is different. It's always education first.
Yes,
it's always
exactly.
how do you take care of yourself? How do you take care of your family as you get older? And I totally feel your pain, man, because sport was more like a luxury, right? And it was always work, always studying, and then what else are you gonna do, right? And I think because sport was not an option for the people in that household, you crave it more, and it means more, right? Where if you grew up in a household that's a little bit more lax, that you had the opportunity, you wouldn't want it as bad, right?
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah, so because it wasn't given to you, and you have to kind of sneak your way through, earn your way through, and it's a hard conversation to have, dude, especially when you kind of go up to your dad, and be like, hey, Dad, I lied to you, but I'm doing this. This is what I'm chasing after.
Exactly.
I think there's an element of disappointment, but also proud at the same time on his end. We're man, all right, I'm raising him to be a certain young man. Yeah. While lying is not the best thing, but he is true to himself, and he's making it happen. Should I be mad or should I be proud? Yeah. And I'm sure he get trapped into that. And I think at that point he's just all right, well, you know what? He's going to make it happen. There's not much I can do anyways. He figured out this whole plan to make it happen this far. I might as well just have him rock with it. And I think the fact that you were able to bet on yourself, I think is great, man. I think because you believe in yourself that you can – first off, it takes someone to believe in you for then you to believe in yourself, right? Because you have a great coach that believe in your capability. Yeah. And, I think the better feeling is that when someone sees something in you that you don't see, and I think the question you probably ask, what did they see in me that I don't see? And why did they believe in me so much? Yeah.
So I think at that point when, like I said, going into my freshman year to my sophomore year when the new coach came, I was in a point where I really want this football thing to work out for me. But obviously it's not right now. So what do I need to do to change? And I obviously need to be more hungrier, do more and all that. So obviously I want to play quarterback, but if someone looks you in the eye and say, I think you could be a starting linebacker for your team, I'm not going to pass down the opportunity. So that whole summer, that whole off season, I worked hard. I asked him everything I needed to know. I was first in all the drills, in the line, doing the extra just to make sure, I proved him right. He believed in me. He said, I feel like you could be a great player at linebacker for the team and for myself. And if someone looked at me, like you said, someone believing in me and telling me that, I don't think I ever had that up until that point when it came to football. My parents, obviously they wanted me to do well. Obviously they believed in me, but they didn't care or like the sport, you know. So just having a coach, and I can't say that because Pop Warner, my coach, was good for me too. And shout out to him. He's my first ever coach, and I still talk to him to this day. But you know, high school is different. You actually remember, and like you're actually close to your dreams. So he was the first person for real in the sport that actually looked at me and was like, I see potential in you to be a great player. So when you hear that, it just drives you to, you know, prove him and yourself right.
Dude, I read this quote yesterday in the morning, and I had to read it like multiple times. I'm like, wait, am I missing something with this? So I think it was Carl Jung. He's a psychologist. He just said, destiny is on the way to the road that you were reluctant to take. And I read that again. I was like, what does that mean? I was like, all right, on the way to the road that I'm reluctant to take. So just like you, it's like you were reluctant to take the road of a linebacker, but then that's where you met your destiny.
Exactly.
So isn't that crazy, man? Like whatever this is great, right? Because we can talk about this. Well, no matter how young you are, or no matter how old you are, like, I'm probably like 10 years older than you, but there's things that I'm like reluctant to do. Yeah. But when I do it, I'm like, oh man, like this is where all this opportunity start coming in, right? Because I don't look for it and I don't think it was good for me. And I think this can apply to anything. Just like, you know, I'm sure before you decided to do a finance major, you're probably like, man, I don't like math. I don't like to do this and that. But then when you do it, you're like, you know what? I don't like to do it, but I'm good at it. And it makes sense for me. But it's still hard work. And then that's where things start coming in. And the fact that you say, hey, I like to be a quarterback. I don't have the talent for it. But somehow, linebacker is working out for me. And then next thing you know, again, look, you did so well in running back. But the fact that you're like, you know what? I actually rather be a linebacker. That also speaks to things, to your characters too, right? Because you can talk more about this, right? The more talented you are, the hard work you are, the more opportunity you attract, the harder it is because you have so many options. Yeah. Right? So let's go into that decision-making process a little bit. Yeah. How do you choose linebacker over running back? Because you probably could have played both.
I'm not going to lie. Yeah. Sophomore year, I only played linebacker. But junior and senior year, I played linebacker and running back. And I'm not going to lie to you at all. My junior and senior year, I enjoyed playing running back more than linebacker just because – it's always fun to get the ball and score touchdowns, make those highlight plays, jumping over people, go viral and stuff like that. And I started receiving my interest as a sophomore for a linebacker. And I've been playing linebacker longer. And I feel like even though I was making so much plays, like thank God I was gifted with this ability and talent to make those plays at a running back and stuff. I feel like I had to be smart at that young age and realize that I have a better chance of making it far at linebacker. I feel like I could become a better linebacker. And that's why, because I'm not going to lie, like I started during the whole recruitment process, some schools wanted me at running back, some schools wanted me at linebacker, some schools wanted me to choose. They just wanted me as a player and an athlete there. But I just knew that better for me, the safer choice was to play linebacker. And yeah, that's why I picked it.
Yeah, I mean, longevity career-wise, it's way better as a linebacker. Not easier. Right, and that's not what we're saying. It's not easy. It's require different sets of skill, different, tremendous leadership in both roles. Like and I think to me, like being a linebacker is somewhat of like a quarterback position on a defense.
It is,
right, because you're the first one
making
in
all
line,
the calls, making all the checks, and it's not easy at all. It's probably, I don't want to say the hardest on defense because I have a lot of respect for DBs, like covering a man one-on-one, but linebackers will do that too. Yeah. Not only do they have to do that, they have to make the checks, make the calls for everybody on the defense. Yeah. Blitz sometimes, draw back in coverage, make open field tackles for losses, hit gaps, take on blockers. So you're literally doing everything on the defense that someone's doing, but you're doing with his job plus the D-line's job plus, so it's a really hard position.
Yeah, and I do think that knowledge you acquire to be a quarterback does help you as a linebacker because if you can think like a quarterback, you can kind of know like, all right, I see where this is going. Or even like watching Aaron Rodgers, watching Peyton Manning, and like even like listen to like Tony Romo calling plays when he's announcing. You can see like that knowledge just never leaves, and the fact that you can see like what's coming down the pipeline, and you have a better insight on what's the play going to be, that also make you a better linebacker. Am I correct with that?
Definitely. And I feel like playing running back as well because, linebackers, I remember in my junior and senior year, I remember like playing defense and I'm seeing and it's the same thing for offense too. But like playing defense and going against another team, you're seeing what they're running. You're like, I run those plays for my offense too, so I kind of know like what to do, how to stop that play. And the same thing for when I was playing running back. Since I was playing linebacker, I kind of knew what some linebackers would do, the tendencies on this play, like counter, they might try to follow the puller, so I can try to cut it back. So, I feel like playing both sides of the ball and also playing quarterback and having the knowledge I had of the game helped me a lot, making those plays that some people, may not see and may not make.
Yeah. So I got to ask this question. What is a better feeling, scoring a touchdown or getting a tackle for loss?
How about how long is the touchdown?
I don't know, like a rushing touchdown, 5 yards.
Oh no, getting a sack for loss.
Yeah.
Or a sack. I feel like I love getting sacks. I don't know, something about getting a sack because it's just such a momentum changer. Like, especially when the team is driving and your team really needs to stop, and just to get that sack, especially if it's like a sack fumble and your team recovers the ball. I think that's a better feeling than a touchdown.
Yeah, I think like from like a man perspective, it's the most dominating thing you can do, right? If you and I talk about just war strategies, you're talking about like you're leading at the front line, right? Like look at like all the O lines, all the D line leading at the front line. Yeah. It's like two unstoppable forces crashing towards each other. One try to go this way, the other one try to go that way. Some try to advance, the other one try to push someone back. Like if you're talking chess, you're talking war strategies. Like that is literally that's what football is about. And again, I grew up in Thailand. There's no football, so I grew to love watching football. Just watching the Giants in 07. And I was like, man, this is like really cool. And just that whole path of that team stopping Tom Brady. Like there's so the narrative under that season was like Brady's going undefeated. Yeah. And then like there's the only team that can stop and just see how the defense play. I'm like, man, like with Strahan, with those guys. Exactly. I'm just like, oh my God, this is great. There's so much drama. And again, I grew up watching soccer, but there's no drama like that. The only drama with soccer is like when people start flopping. Yeah.
And I love soccer. I still watch it. I know the World Cup was just happening.
That was probably the best game I've ever seen.
That was probably the best World Cup I ever witnessed. And I've heard people told me that's probably the best World Cup ever. Yeah. That final was amazing. And
yeah, you couldn't ask for that. Just going back and forth. So let's switch gear a little bit, right? You got to Rutgers. Obviously, you had the unfortunate event of tearing your ACL, and you knew it immediately. And I love that you mentioned this because in almost every podcast I mentioned this. I gave myself a 24-hour rule where I can sob and like cry about something, and then after that I have to take action and do something about it because as guys, we don't have the luxury to kind of mope around. Like we kind of have to take action. So I love that you mentioned that. And again, I'm not saying you shouldn't allow yourself to have feeling that surface. You absolutely should do that, but then you have to have some sort of action, right? So what went through your mind when you know, like, hey, it's confirmed, it's tear, I have to get surgery? Like, because I know you're very analytical. You also kind of plan things. Yeah. I mean, just our conversation in passing as I'm treating, like, I know you think in like 6 month advance. So talk me through that whole process of how you plan your life and how did you cope with that through planning, and how many percentage of those plans actually came to fruition?
I'm not gonna lie, I have to credit my hardships that I went through in my life, especially coming into college, because like I said, probably the sophomore year to senior year of high school, everything was kind of going swell. Yeah, I was a great student. Football was going amazing, top of the world, all these offers, all this attention. And then you get to college and you're kind of like around a bunch of people just like you. And then the head coach that recruits you gets fired. And you get a new head coach. So I'm going through a lot. You know, I'm not playing as much as I used to in high school. So I'm like kind of down and everything. But through those hard times I had during those times, I gained a strong mindset. I was able to not get down on myself. So I was kind of prepared for a lot of bad things, or prepared for the worst. So when that ACL tear, when that injury happened, like I said, I cried immediately when it happened, not because of pain, just because of disappointment, because of how much work I put in this season and what I had planned for this season. Like, I thought it was going to be the year I break out and everyone knows my name and, you know, I put my name on the map. But to tear your ACL a week before the first game, like every time I say that, I just think how crazy it is. But yeah, I had those 24 hours. Well, not even 24 hours. I just had that night to, cry and think about like everything. But as soon as I woke up the next morning, was like, all right, what's next? So I remember talking to my head coach at the time. As soon as they told me, he expected me to be back by spring ball the next season. And that's what I had my mind to. And spring ball next season was 6 months, 6 or 7 months. So I was like, all right, I'm gonna be back in 6 months. I get the surgery. I had to wait like 3 weeks to get the surgery. Those first 2 weeks were kind of brutal. Just like the pain from the surgery. But after those week and a half, 2 weeks, I was kind of good. Rehab is a hard thing, like not like to do, but just mentally and like physically, waking up every morning, having to come in and do rehab, and you're not feeling like how you used to. I think that was probably the number one thing that kind of bothered me. Like, damn, like, am I going to be the same? And you, like, growing up, like I said, my favorite athlete was Derrick Rose, and how he's done with his injuries and how people have been saying he hasn't been the same. It's kind of scared me, But I told myself to block out all those bad negative thoughts and just focus on yourself and just keep getting better, keep getting better, keep getting better. And that's how I approach every physical therapy session. I just try to go in there, and when I come out, I want to say, did I get better today? And no matter what anyone say, I feel like every day I walked in there, I did what I could do. I did the best. And I started feeling good early. Obviously, I was never 100%, but I felt good early. And I was happy about that. But that's because I literally every day I was in therapy, probably like the weekends I had off. But every other day I was doing some type of rehab. And not even just doing rehab, I was always lifting. So, like, I wasn't focusing always on my leg. I had to make sure my body was still good and everything. But, yeah, I'm rehabbing. And I found you guys after this season. So, I had surgery in September. September to December, I was doing rehab at Rutgers and another physical therapy place around Rutgers. And then coming home for the break, I think Al-Shadi, he told me about you guys. Yeah. And the Rutgers sent over my, stuff to you guys, and I started coming here. And I remember coming in here the first day, you guys worked me hard, and I was like, this is the place I need to be, man. Like, I need to get pushed. I need to be back, and I know you guys could do it for me. So I remember coming in here every day, working and working and working. Fast forward to next semester, I'm at Rutgers. I'm working, but even I'm at Rutgers, and I'm feeling like I need to come back to Myokinetix because they pushed me way better. And I remember taking that 40-minute drive to here during the semester, during weekdays, just to come and get some work in so I can get better. I remember working and working and working. And I think by March, I feel like I was cleared to play, but for safety reasons, I didn't because it was just they didn't think that would be smart for me to do spring ball. So yeah, I think it was smart, and I think you guys agreed. Like, you didn't think it was smart for me to play football. Do spring ball, so I didn't do spring ball. But I remember I still came here and did rehab. So yeah, I was good.
Yeah, I mean, those are like so many good talking points, right? And like I remember when you come in to us and we're like, all right, here's where he's at, here's what we need to do, and like obviously, me and all the therapists just pull our resources together, right? Because that's what we're trying to do, and just get the best for you. And what I love is that, like, when we get athletes like you or anyone that comes in here, is that the first thing that I always say is that, like, we work for you. We don't work for anyone, right? So I appreciate, like, different schools sending us referral and all that stuff. But at the end of the day, like, our best intention is for you, right? Like, no one can sway our opinion if it's not best for you, right? So we're always going to advocate for what's best for the patient and what's best for you guys. And like when we have, I remember you and I have a long conversation about that, going back to spring ball, and we're just like, hey man, just based on where you're at, and I'm not a fan of spring ball, to be honest, at all. I think spring ball is from a entertainment approach where they just want the fan to give them something. It's almost like a trailer of a movie of what to get excited for. The risk is not worth the reward. And everyone is like, and I'm not even concerned about you because I know like you've been working hard. I trust in your body and your ability. I'm more concerned about what other people, when they haven't been doing anything, and next thing you know, they just make a little silly mistake. And and again, I went to Maryland and I've seen people like the amount of injury that we've seen during spring ball, it was unnecessary.
Yeah.
Like, why are we going so hard? Why are we doing all that? And let's face it, man, you solidify your starting spot in camp.
Yeah.
Like you compete in camp, and to put your body through that, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
And that's why we advocate the way we advocate it. And I think like the team and we were just talking about some traits of good athlete that have done well with us and also continue to do well on the field. And you have all those traits, man. Like you work hard, right? That's something that we cannot ask for people to do. You either have it or you don't have it, right? So you come in, you're ready to put your head down and you work hard. So that's something us as therapists, we always looking for, right? If you give us 100%, we give you 110, and then we match that energy, right? So you have that element. And the second element you have is you have consistency, right? So you're always showing up, you're coming in, and the fact that you're consistent, that means we can have a good progression for you.
Yeah.
If you're inconsistent, then we can't really progress in that way. The third one is that you have resiliency. So, like, we do hard stuff.
Yeah.
And the knee pain's going to be there, right? When we lift, it's going to get achy.
Yeah.
It's going to swell up a little bit. But because you kind of have that in your head where, like, all right, hey, I can get through this. This is a normal process, right? You understood the process. And again, if it swell up a little bit more than usual, then we have to address that, right? But to have that resiliency, both physical and mental, that's a huge thing. And then lastly, you have the commitment. And I think that's the main thing. The fact that you drove 40 minutes on the school day, after practice, after you do your rehab with the team to come work with us, that's a huge thing. So you have 4 of those elements that we, like, if we were to build a perfect patient, that's what we would want, right? It's almost like when you play 2K, you build your own character. You want all these attributes. That's what we want, and that's why I think with what you do, like how you do anything is how you do everything, right? Yeah. And if you carry those 4 traits into rehab and then you do exact same thing in your practice, right? That's going to give you success in the field. And that's why I got to give you a lot of credit on that, man. Because we talk about it all the time. And, are we surprised at your success on the field? No, we're not. Because we've seen it, right? And all the guys that we have worked with, all the gals we have worked with that play at a high level, even like moms that doing well, it's the exact same thing. They have these 4 traits that is absolutely important. And I don't think people talk about that enough, right? Because you can have, listen, you've been in a training room where you have guys who are extremely talented. Yeah. But then when, again, adversity will strike you, always, it just depends on when, right? And it's how you overcome those adversity. That's when you really see, like, okay, the talent, how far is that going to carry you? You've seen talented people, as soon as adversity strike, they kind of just fold. Yeah. And it's hard. That's just hard to see, and you don't want to wish that on anyone. But when it does happen, that's when to me, that's when you solidify yourself you turn yourself from a rock into a diamond. Yeah. Right? So, that's something that I need to say. So, based on the experience that you have with rehab, man, what changed in your perspective? Did you learn anything from that?
Well, like I said, I never really had any, like, injuries. Like, I had injuries, like, like little sprained ankles or anything, but nothing that really required, like, oh, you have to be at rehab. So, before this injury, I didn't really think much of it. I knew I had to stretch, do some stretches, make sure you're good, make sure you're feeling good before games, before practices. But after having this injury, having to go through all this rehab, I have a lot more, like, much more respect for rehab and also for PTs. Like, there was like I said, I'm always strong-minded, but there was a time at point I thought, like, yo, I'm probably not gonna be the same, and that's a terrible feeling to have. But I remember going through rehab and talking to you guys and talking to other trainers that I, was around during this whole point. Like, you guys kept telling me, keep doing your rehab, keep being consistent, and keep going hard and being committed and doing the extra, and you're gonna be good, man. And it was hard to believe at the point because you're feeling like, you're not feeling your best. But sitting here right now after the season I had, because of what I did to get to this point, man, rehab is important to me, and, like, I just can't wait to do more, like, pre-rehab stuff and keep going on my knee because it's very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, when it comes to your body, it's one of those things where, like, our body is funny because it's it's deteriorating.
Yeah.
Like especially when you're playing like contact sport, right?
Exactly.
You want to give yourself the best chance to succeed on the field, but also to be successful when you're 80 years old.
Yeah.
Right? You don't want to full send everything, and then like when you're 80, you don't get to enjoy your life. So I think now, like with all the pro guys that we work with, they're so vigilant, they're so smart about this. Where like we have guys that come in after practice, after a game, just because they know this is important.
Yeah.
And I've talked to people who lasted 10 years in the league, and the one thing that I found in common is that they were ahead of the trend. These were people that were like, yep, gotta go in the ice bath, gotta go get some massage, gotta go do this, gotta go do that. Like, their job is not done just because the practice is over, just because the game's over. Like, it's the whole year long. And I love when LeBron come out and say he spent $1 million to take care of his body. You know, obviously then Odell come out and say the same thing and all of that. And these are guys with resources, and that's important. And right, Brady's saying the same thing. So I think I love where the trend is going, just because I think it's needed to go that way. And it doesn't have to be when you're an athlete. It has to be when you're just like a regular person.
Yep.
You know? So I think it's just important, man. So obviously you hit the portal, you found a new home, you make a name for yourself, right? Read a good article on you about that. Talk about that transition process of how is it? It's your first time leaving Jersey.
Yeah.
I'm sure you have, obviously you're very family oriented. So let's talk about that, because there'll be athletes that listen to this. They're about to go away. They just had the national signing day yesterday. So now, like, what's some advice will you give the younger generation of athlete that getting ready to, like, fly out the nest?
I remember in high school, through the whole recruitment process, like, I was getting all these offers, like, from cool schools that people dream to go into, but just because of how much I was always around my family and how comfortable I was in Jersey, like, obviously I was, really close with my head coach at the time, but just because how close I was with Jersey and how, accessible was Rutgers to my house, like 30-minute drive, I think that was the big reason why I committed to Rutgers, just because I didn't want to leave Jersey. But, like, I remember when I hit the portal, when you hit the portal, you don't know what to expect. Like, you could think something and then something else happens. You can expect the worst and then you get the best, or you can expect the best and get the worst. And there's plenty of people in the portal now that have entered it from when I entered and before when I entered that still haven't have a home. So luckily I was blessed with some opportunities, and going on the visits were fun and stuff. But at the end of the day, I made the decision to go to Miami, Ohio, because I felt that was the best situation and best place for me to be able to show and my skills and stuff. I wasn't scared because at this point I already been in college for a couple years, and I had the mindset like I need this, like I need to go somewhere so I can show what I'm able to do and get my name out there. Now for younger guys who are like high schoolers going into college for the first time, man, they're doing better than me, because I know, like, I got a couple guys. I got one going to Notre Dame from Irvington, Adon. Yeah, that's my guy. Another one named Jaden, he's going to Ohio State, and I'm happy for those guys, because those are guys that live around me that are kind of around my time. Even before then, I wasn't really heard of, and they're like I said, I was happy to make a name and show people around me that it's possible, but they're doing it even more, going to those big schools, and I'm happy for them, and I hope they do good. They should be fine. It's not that hard, honestly, to adjust to a different place in a different state, especially when you're just going to college. You have room and board and everything. I feel like it's different for when someone who's just moving out the state to another state just to move, because then you got to find your own where you want to stay and all that. But colleges do a good job to make you feel at home, and that's just most colleges. Like, they make it an easy transition for you. Obviously it's not going to be easy, like football and school and all that, but I'm just talking about being comfortable and having somewhere to feel like safe and call a home. So yeah, when I transferred and I picked Miami, Ohio, it took some thinking, and because I had a few offers that I really was thinking about, but like I said, I picked them just because I felt the best and they feel like they wanted me the most, and that's the number one thing that you gotta think, especially when it's your second go around in this recruiting process. Like, you gotta go somewhere you're gonna be used, you're gonna be wanted. Like, this is, for college football is a business, like, so you gotta think about your business first. And I wanted to go somewhere where I knew they needed me and they wanted me to come help it right away. And obviously you have to work for it. Don't go somewhere thinking like, oh, it's just gonna be gifted to you, because if they say that to you or you think that's the case, then you're gonna go in there, you're gonna be hit with a rude awakening. So like when I got there, they made me work for everything, and I worked. You know me, like I work hard every time, especially when in this situation. And I worked and I got it, and the rest is history.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people like, dude, they say that to everyone.
Yeah,
they say they want you. You still gotta go prove yourself.
Exactly.
Like no free lunch, right?
Yeah.
Everything gotta be earned, all the way through and through. Let's talk about how to keep yourself as a professional, because you are a professional. You are a business. You're representing yourself all the time in college, right? I mean, more now than ever with like social media. If you do something, someone record it, that's it. It's a wrap, right? So how do you, because you have to have a balance of, you want to enjoy your college time, but you also want to make it to the next level. So how do you toe the line, and how do you make sure you can find that balance where you can do both?
Yeah. Well, talking about social media, I feel like all athletes who want to make it far and want to become a pro, you got to treat yourself like a pro from a young age. Like as soon as you have that dream, you got to start acting like a pro, so that when you get to that point, it's kind of easy for you. So, and what I do with my social media, I don't post anything dumb. Everything is, I reread everything I type. I rewatch videos that I post on my story like about 10 times just to make sure nothing looks or makes people can look at it and be like, whoa, what is he, So yeah, social media, you gotta act professional, and I think sometimes that's what hurts some guys, younger guys. They go out there and they just post whatever. They think so it's social media is gonna go away, but people find everything. Like once you post it on the web, like it's there forever. No matter if Instagram says the story only up for 24 hours, someone can save it, someone can screen record it, someone can send it. So yeah, you just gotta be smart with social media, and then going into actual college, you just gotta be smart with that as well. Like I know, especially for like new guys, like freshmen, they go in there like, I'm finally away, especially if you're going away from home. Yeah. You're like,
you got freedom.
Yeah, freedom. You're finally away from home. You're kind of like, I just want to have fun, do whatever I want. But, I'm not here to say like you can't do that. You can't have fun. But you got to understand you're not a regular student like the people you see at these parties and that doing all this crazy stuff. You're here to get a good education and to try to make it to the NFL if that's your dream. So you got to treat yourself like that. So I recommend like during the season, like you don't really even have time to go out or do anything crazy. So like I feel like during the season you shouldn't, you should just focus on what you got. Because then you have a whole off season, a whole spring semester where you're not doing as much work. You obviously still have winter workouts and spring ball, but you have more leeway, more time to do like have fun and stuff. So yeah.
Yeah, it's always a trade-off, right? If you work so hard to get to a certain point, and then those hard work can like be lost like pretty quickly. Yeah. And I think, and I was telling someone, I think I was telling one of my employees here, I was like, the biggest struggle for me as an adult, that now that I have more time, all I want to do is play video games, man. I every week I wrestle like, when should I buy the Nintendo DS? Yeah. Because I just want to play the new Pokemon. But then I was just thinking like, all right, if I spend 2 hours on a new Pokemon game, then what am I not doing in those 2 hours? And then like, as soon as I think, I was like, all right, well, then I'm not writing. Then like, when's the new books going to come out? Then I'm not meeting my staff. Then I'm not answering questions. Then I'm not doing content. I'm like, and it just and then just create a cascade of problems. So I'm just like, okay, then it's not worth it. Like it would satisfy me in the moment, but then it would not bring the greater return in the future. So it's not that, what I'm trying to say is a stark contrast, right? You're a professional college athlete. Yeah. And I like to say I'm a professional business person, right? And both of us are still tempted by the same thing, whether it's going out, whether it's playing video games. Those temptations will be there. We're not saying that it's not going to be there. We're human. We're always going to be tempted. Right, I'm always tempted to eat bad food. Yeah. You're tempted to like. We're just talking about like banchan chicken. Yeah. Like we're tempted to eat 30 wings. Yeah. But then like after 10, it's a little bit too much.
Too much.
Yeah.
Stomachs go crazy.
Yeah. So for those who are listening, is the temptation is always there. Yeah. I try not to block off the temptation. I just try to make peace with it. I'm like, oh yeah, it's always there. I'm always gonna want to play video game. I'm always gonna want to eat dessert. But what I don't want to be is not productive and overweight.
Yeah, definitely. When you go to college, another thing I want to say about being professional and being smart for the young guys going to college, especially when they're going to good schools, you get these stipends and COA checks, whatever they call it, and now you got NIL. Yeah. I just really wanted to stress that they be smart with it. Like, because like I said, when you're a high schooler going into college, you probably never had that much money in your bank account. You know what I mean? And you see that and you're like, oh, I want to spend it on a whole bunch of things. And I'm not going to lie, like I fell in that trap for a little bit. But luckily, the way I was raised and the way I was brought up, you know, my parents, they weren't dirt poor or anything. They had money. They had, you know, they had enough to, you know, maintain the house and family, but they never just gave excess money away to me or my kid, not my kids, my siblings or anything. Because, like, you have to understand how to manage and budget your money. And I feel like giving these stipends and stuff like that to us college athletes is smart. But it also, they need to help teach some guys, because not everyone is, you know, like me who know, like, I have to save and budget their money. But they need to, when they give out this money, like NILs, they need to have classes and stuff like that, or just teach them that, you know, you need to save and budget your money that you get.
Yeah, I think, you know, again, like, just like you, man, like, when my business started doing well, I'm like, oh, man, like, it's always like, I grew up in a household where my mom was, like, super tight with money.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm like, all right, well, and then you have the opposite voice. We're like, oh, yeah, you got to treat yourself a little bit. You buy nice stuff. And I think what's cool is that if people get to the place where they can realize they can have nice stuff but not need it, I think that's a true freedom. Yeah. Where you and I can go in and, like, get some nice clothes, this and that. But to know that, like, you know what? It would be nice to have, but it's not needed. Yeah. And what I have is just good enough. I think that's like is a real way to live, because now you're not competing with people. And I think in your world more than in my world is that everything's a flex. Everything is this and that. Gotta be designer, gotta be this and that. And you know, and you can see the NFL just turn everything to, like, kind of like a fashion show and everything, right? NBA is the worst. They do all that all the time. And you know, even like in the locker room where they have, like, the diamond testing thing to make, like, if you get caught up in that, that's literally the rat race you're going to be in. And, you know, us as social creature, we like to compare and we like to feel belong. And that's why if your 5 friends are into those things, guess what? You have no choice. You have to be into those things. So maybe, you know, find yourself with group of people that are not into those things, rather than like, hey, why don't we just go work out instead? Work out, study hall, go eat Chipotle. And then that's it. Like, that sounds like a pretty good day for me, right? All my friends now, like, we like nice stuff. Like, if I have to, like, pick 3 common things that we all like, we like good food, right? We like to travel, experience stuff, and we like nice things that last long. So it's not like a temporary thing. Like, so, like, you know, like, I like Lululemon. That's all I wear because it's comfortable. And, you know, guess what? It's lasted me like 6 years. So, you know, I think, talk about your circle a little bit as you come up, right? When we talk about, and as you get older, as I get older, my circle gets smaller, but the depth of my friendship get a lot deeper. We have harder, more meaningful conversation. How do you go from being the guy that know everybody, or everybody knows you in high school, to now you seem like you seem like a pretty quiet guy, you're pretty low key. How do you then slowly, you know, pretty much shed some of your friendship that just not aligned with what you're trying to do?
Well, growing up, I was always kind of just like, I want to say quiet, but I was just like to myself. And I had friends like who I really thought were my real friends. And those are people like I usually just hang out with, no matter what people thought about them or what they thought about me. So, like, then when you get to the point where, like, people start knowing who you are, you get those people that just want to be around you and be your friend just because of who you are. It was easy for me to find those people out. And that's why I can say, like, most of my friends have stayed the same since I was a kid to now. Then you get to college, you find new friends on the teams, your teammates, just regular people, students at college. So I feel like my friends have stayed the same for the most part, and I've just gained a few. I always keep my circle small. I feel like there's no need to have a big circle. You don't need to be that guy that everyone knows. That just comes with being a football player, like, especially a known one. Like, a lot of people want to be around you. A lot of people know about you. But if I had to say, like, my circle is just kind of small, and I think it's good to keep it like that, because then you know, like, who's really for you, who really has the best interests, and who you can really trust.
And I think a good point you just brought up is, like, being known, but I think you also need to wants to find out what are you being known for.
Yeah.
Right. And I think you need to kind of control that narrative a little bit. So like, if I were to ask you like, hey Brian, what do you want to be known for? What would the answer be?
I want to be. I was kind of thinking about this one of these recently. I want to be known for someone who everyone feels like was a good guy, and just a way like if anyone needed someone to talk to at one point, they could think, oh, Brian is someone I could talk to. I want to be known as a real honest person, because I look at myself like I think I'm an honest person, hardworking, and determined. Like whatever I want, I'm gonna get. Those 3 things, and smart. So I feel like those 4 things right there is the 4 things that I want everyone to, if they really know me and they really be like, oh, how I know Brian, I want to think those 4 things come up to their mind when they bring my name up.
Yeah. And you say you just thought about this recently?
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I'm to myself, so like when I'm by myself, I think a lot. And I remember thinking about like, God forbid, like what if I go away? Like what are people going to remember me for? And I think those 4 things would be it.
I think it's deep, man. And this is so funny because we do this in business a lot. And anytime you start a business, like any mentor I have, they always say like, hey, before you go and build your business, you got to figure out like what is your life going to be like. So they always do this exercise like if you die and people show up to your funeral, what would people say? How many people would be there? Who would be there? And like on a superficial level, it just seemed like what a stupid thing to say. But on a deeper level, is if you start with the end in mind, let's face it, we're all going to die. Like that's a guarantee.
Exactly.
Like, but if you can then start with the end in mind of the kind of character you want to forge for yourself, what are you representing, what you stand for, then you can reverse engineer back. It's like, all right, if I were someone who's honest, who's smart, who is trustworthy, how would I behave, right? And then you start like, well, I would behave like this. I would make sure I tell people the right thing, not the easy thing. I would then you start reverse engineering those behaviors. It's like, oh, well, if I'm going to behave like this, then how would I behave in my business, right? Oh, I will make sure I'm really transparent with all my patients. I will make sure that I tell them the truth, and I'm not trying to, lie to them because I don't want to hurt their feeling. And then, all right, if my business is going to represent that, now who do I need to hire, right? So you see, it's all start with the end in mind. So the fact that you like took the time to think about that, man, I think is incredible. For a young man your age, and I think most of the times for us and where we are now as a society is that we're so distracted by everything else that sitting quietly by yourself is the hardest thing that someone can do.
Yeah, and I feel like COVID really helped me a lot when it comes to that, because you had to be inside lockdown and stuff like that. And I remember during the COVID year when I was at Rutgers, there was nobody on campus, just athletes. So I remember there was outbreaks on our team constantly. Like someone or a couple people would get it a lot. So I never wanted to go home because I didn't want to go home and, oh, I have it and now I'm around my family. So I remember that whole season, like I remember starting from camp like August to like end of December. I was at Rutgers, not seeing my parents, not once that whole time, not seeing my brothers, my sisters, none of my friends from back home. I'm just with my teammates that whole time. And I remember every day after practice, every class was online. Every day after practice, I'm in my room. I'm with my teammates sometimes, but I'm in my room. And I'm with myself. And like I said, I wasn't playing that much, so obviously I wasn't in the best like state. So I just sit there and think like about good things, about bad things. But when we're going back to like, oh, like if you were to die, what would you want people to remember you for? I remember I saw myself in an environment once that I saw like those things I wanted to be remembered for wasn't really what I was being and what I was doing. So like I wasn't being honest. I would be lying, and I wasn't being trustworthy. And that's when I kind of knew like I kind of needed to change the environment I was in because I wasn't being myself. So I feel like that's important for people to know too. Like if you're in an environment where you don't feel like you're being yourself, or you're doing things that you don't really usually do or don't like to do, that's when you kind of need to up and leave that environment and switch. So yeah, that's basically it. COVID helped me a lot when it comes to talking to myself and being able to sit down with myself. Yeah,
and I think it's very important, man. Especially again, I keep going back to us being men. Like we need to reflect a lot. just because we're talking about like mental health for everybody, especially for men.
Yeah.
I think since COVID, like suicide rate went up a whole bunch, especially for young guys. I think having the ability to recognize the voice in your head, what you're telling yourself, like, I mean, it's so crazy, dude. The narrative you tell yourself in your head is so important and more than anyone else could tell you, right? If everyone is telling you you're great, but inside you don't feel that way, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, if you tell yourself you're great and everybody outside is telling you you're not great, doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like, so it's all like it's all about the movie that you play inside your head. So, and I learned that when when I would meditate in the morning with all the books that I read. And you know what? I mean, thankfully, dude, like during COVID, I had so much time to reflect, and I get to embark on so many different journey as far as like self-discovery and doing hard stuff. Like, like this podcast was started during COVID, and like I was like terrified of doing public speaking. Now I'm doing like 40s a week.
Yeah.
And then and I love it because I get to know you on a deeper level, right? Because before we would come in here, we'll work. I was checking on you, see how you're doing, but like we don't have this kind of one-on-one time. And for me, like if everything were to end today, I'm totally okay with it because now I get to have authentic conversation with someone like you. I get to have, Adon's coming later, so I'm gonna talk to him.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where like I get to actually know people, like for who they are, and most of the time, like I feel like I'm super privileged because there might be people that know you, but they haven't had this kind of conversation, and they've never seen this side of you. And the fact that we can talk about life, talk about sport, talk about rehab, talk about work, and to kind of bring it all together, I love it. I wouldn't ask for a better hour of my life.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't usually to talk in public and stuff like that. I don't think I still am. But it's always good to just try new things and and try to get comfortable being uncomfortable with things. Yeah,
and it's good, man. And the lesson I've learned is that you have to control your own narrative, and especially I am as a business owner, as a PT, and we're well known around New Jersey now, and it's easy for people to just insert certain narrative that is not true. So I always want to just put myself out there to say, hey, if I say it, like I probably believe in it. If I'm wrong, I can openly admit say that I'm wrong, right? So I think for you as a professional college athlete, you always have to control your narrative because otherwise people will fill in the gap for you.
Yeah.
And that's not what you want.
Yeah. So, I feel like for me, what I look at the most is my reputation, and I want to make sure that no one can really say something bad about me. I know people are going to say, especially when you're a known college athlete, people are going to try to find something bad to say. But I feel like one thing I really look at and find important to me is just when I go outside or when I'm around other people, just to be the best person I could be so that no one can have something bad to say about you or go online and say, oh, Brian is this, Brian is that, or talk to their friends like, oh, I don't know, I don't really like Brian or something like that. So that's why I feel like it's important. Yeah, and I think it's all going back to your core values, man. Yeah. Like what you really value and how you view yourself, because the only thing you can control is your thoughts and your action, right? And you can't control what other people is going to do. But if your thoughts and your action align with your core value, every single day you go in, you give it your best. Yeah. And you see this on ESPN a lot, and I stopped watching ESPN for this sole reason where you have a lot of people who are criticizing athletes. Yeah. And these people are not in the arena, right? Stephen A. Smith, he's just known for his rant, but he's not. It's really hard for him to criticize. He hates the Cowboys, but to criticize Dak, like, dude, you don't play on that level. Yeah. You don't play on the Tom Brady level. And to me, you're just an outsider. And a mentor of mine mentioned this to me. It's like, when you go to sport events, the people who scream the loudest are the one who all the way up top. Because they can't even afford to be in the front with where people who know the sport are. Yeah. They can only be up there. And those are the people that offering advice. And those are the people that say they should have done this, they should have done that. Why didn't they run the ball? Why didn't they do that? But at the end of the day, those opinions are irrelevant if you're doing the things that you truly believe is aligned with your value. Yeah. And I know that's something you're gonna face. The bigger you get, like especially, when it comes for your pro day, right? They're gonna say, oh, this is not that, this is not this. He could have done this better. At the end of the day, let your film speak for yourself. Let your character speak for yourself. And from all the coaches I speak to, is like people love
on the field, off the field characters and the film more than whatever 40 you run. Like, does it help? Yes. Yeah. But is it everything? No.
Going back to what you said with like people like Stephen A and stuff like that, it sucks that people are out there bashing another professional athlete, but at the end of the day, they get paid to do that. So I'm not really mad at him.
No, it's entertainment.
It's entertainment, yeah. But it kind of hurts because some people watch that and believe it. Like, I had the opportunity to beat Dak when I was in high school. It was at when Jason Garrett was still the head coach. He had a camp at Princeton, and he was there, and he's a good guy, and I think he's a good quarterback as well. And the Cowboys are doing good. Yeah. So it kind of sucks that you're on a team, you're doing good, you have a playoff spot in front of you, and you have someone still trying to find something bad. But I just feel like stuff like that, it kind of tests your mental strength. Like, just got to try to focus on what you got to do and become the best person you are on and off the field. Because at the end of the day, what really shows and really speaks is what you did on this planet, and you can't really worry about what other people have to say. So, and that's just for college athletes too.
It's just noise, man. And I always go back to the Andre Hopkins clips when he's like, "I fear God, homie." Yeah. Like, and I love it because it's so true. You can't sum anything up in less than that, right? Yeah. He just like, nope, not what you say doesn't matter. I only fear I fear God. Yeah. That was it. Like, that's who I trust. That's who I fear. And I'm like, every time where I'm questioning certain thing, like, that's a sentence that's come to my head.
Yeah, I've seen that clip. I like that clip a lot.
Yeah. And it's huge, man. So listen, bro, I want to say I appreciate your time so much. I know you're just flying in. You have a lot on your plate, and I just want to say, like, I appreciate watching you blossom as a person, as a man, as a leader on the field, and what you do, especially giving the circumstance that you had last year and what you're able to do with the opportunity you have. So I think it is important for me to acknowledge that, and it's important for other athletes, other parents who are listening to this to kind of like take some of the nuggets that you give here and then just like instill it in the younger generation. I think what you're doing is great, man, and it does have a lot of impact. It's more than football. It's never just about football, and I can tell that from the very beginning. So I want to say I appreciate you for being here, and we love having you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm excited for you, man. I can't wait to see what's in store for you in the future, and we're gonna have to get you back on again.
Definitely. Appreciate it.
So if people want to reach out to you, man, where can they follow you?
You can follow me on Instagram. My Instagram is my name, Brian Ugwu. Twitter is Ugwu Brian. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Cool. All right, we'll link it on the show notes. Guys, go follow him. Go show him some love. Drop some comments, whatever you like about this podcast. And next time we get him in, ask him some questions. Maybe we can get a deeper answer and get him to talk more.
Yes, sir. Appreciate it.